It's your boy Eddie Steady 214. If you don't know, now you know my southern opinion. It's your boy Eddie Steady 214. If you don't know, now you know my southern opinion. If I tell you a duck can pull a truck, man, hook that mother. Hey, what's up now? How y'all doing today? It's your boy Eddie Steady 214. It's time to get back to it. Mythology talk. Yes, sir. Time for another episode. Today we got we got gods of the underworld. We got a few things. You know what I'm saying? But let's get right into it.
In one of the most prestigious kingdoms of Greece, a boy was born, the son of the king with his young and beautiful queen. However, the birth of the heir to the royal house was not something auspicious at all. In his visit to Apollo's temple, the king was told a prophecy in which the birth of his son would be the cause of his death and the ruin of his entire family. The king, convinced that something had to be done, persuaded the queen that, for the good of all, the child's life would have to meet its end. The baby is delivered to a servant of the king, who would have to take the infant to Mount Cithaeron. The boy had his feet pierced, and a rope passed through them. The boy had to be hung on a tree by his feet, allowing the beasts to do whatever they wanted with him. However, the servant could not leave the poor child in that place, and handed him to an unknown shepherd who was passing by with his cattle. The shepherd untied the child's feet and treated his wounds. He baptized the baby as Oedipus, which meant the one with swollen feet. The shepherd, in turn, was extreme child, decided he took him to the king of Corinth. Polybus and his wife had no children, and therefore decided to adopt Oedipus as their own son. Oedipus grew, and he was beautiful, strong, and deeply astute, and he lived happily as the crown prince of Corinth. However, during a celebration, one of the noblemen insulted Oedipus, saying that he was not worthy to be the heir to the throne of Corinth, since he was a foreigner. Oedipus questioned King Polybus, wanting to know the truth, but the latter told him not to mind the words of a drunk. Oedipus, unhappy with the king's response, decided to find the truth in the Oracle of Delphi. Despite the insistence, the oracle refused to answer his questions, but prophesied a terrible future for the young boy.
You shall kill your own father, marry your mother, and leave a shameful descent.
Oedipus was dismayed by such a dreadful prophecy and decided to leave Corinth to avoid killing his beloved father.
Wait a minute, what? Oh, this stole.
And taking his mother as a wife. The young man, disheartened, wandered through the roads of Greece until, at a crossroads, he met a gentleman in a wagon, accompanied by his servants. The road was narrow, and one of the servants threw Oedipus off the road to allow the passage of his lord's cart. The young prince, outraged, hit the servant with his cane. The lord and his servants grabbed their weapons and advanced against Oedipus. Oedipus was surrounded by aggressors, but his strength, agility, and youth allowed the youngster to defeat all his opponents. The lord and his servants were dead. Only one of the servants managed to escape. Oedipus, victorious, felt a strong sense of power. after winning a battle against several opponents. The Prince of Corinth continued to wander through Greece when he was faced with the news that a terrible monster was terrorizing the region of the kingdom of Thebes. Oedipus, feeling empowered after his recent victory, went to Thebes to confront the fearsome Sphinx and add his name to the pantheon of heroes. Oedipus, Prince of Corinth, had abandoned his kingdom.
I just spoke with Lord Vader.
You spoke with Lord Vader?
After hearing from the Oracle of Delphi the prophecy in which he would be responsible for the death of his father, while also marrying his mother. In the name of the love for his parents, he left Corinth and began to wander aimlessly through Greece. In his wanderings, Oedipus heard rumors that a monster was devastating the city of Thebes. The creature was known by the name of Sphinx. It was a winged monster, a mixture of a woman with a lion. The vile creature stood on a rock near the city entrance, and all those who approached her heard the following sentence uttered by the Sphinx.
Decipher me or I'll devour you.
And immediately after that, the creature presented a riddle to those who dared to approach her. All those who tried to decipher the enigma failed and were devoured.
I ain't gonna lie, that mother look like it do not play. A big ass lion with a female face and like big huge wings that mother can just take off. Know that whole super fast. That whole land on your ass. Them big ass claws. Rip your ass up in one rip. Yeah. Yeah. Your skin too soft for them claws there. That thing look huge.
Creon provisionally reigned over Thebes, which was mourning the death of King Laius. After losing his firstborn to the Sphinx, Creon decreed that he would grant the hand of his sister Jocasta in marriage, queen and the widow of Laius, to the one capable of defeating the Sphinx, and this hero would become king of Thebes. Oedipus decided to accept this challenge because he did not fear death, and
It's an ugly ass Sphinx here, boy.
if he ended up dying, at least he would know that his parents would be safe from his terrible prophecy. Oedipus met the Sphinx and heard the well-known sentence.
Decipher me or I'll devour you.
That look like a damn dog. You see the different pictures? That mother look all different kind of ways. Sometimes that mother look huge. This one here look puny as hell. Like that mother sick.
In the morning, I have 4 legs. At noon, 2. And when the twilight comes, I have 3. Among all creatures, it is the only that can change its number of legs, but the greater the number, the lower its speed and strength.
Oedipus stared at the Sphinx, which was already licking her lips, waiting for yet another meal. And so the boy uttered his reply. The answer is the human being. At the dawn of his life, he crawls on his arms and legs. In the middle of his life, he walks on his 2 legs. At the end of his life, he has to rely on a cane. The enigma's resolution covered the Sphinx with an unbearable shame, and she ended up throwing herself from the top of a cliff. The Sphinx was dead, and Thebes was safe again. Creon, as promised, gave the hand of his sister Jocasta to the hero, and he married her. Oedipus was now the king of Thebes. His wife, despite having a certain age, was still very beautiful and fertile. And with her, Oedipus had several children, and they lived very happily. But black clouds began to cover the city of Thebes, a premonition that something terrible was about to happen. After defeating the terrible Sphinx, Oedipus, as a reward, received the hand of the queen Jocasta of Thebes in marriage and became king of Thebes. He had 4 children with the queen, the boys Oedipus and Polynices, and the girls Antigone and Ismene. Many years passed, and Oedipus, despite having some flaws, was seen as a righteous and benevolent king. However, a plague was ravaging the city of Thebes, and many lives were cut short by the disease. Desperate, the population reached for their king, who had already saved the city in the past, and begged Oedipus to save it again. King Oedipus did not dodge his responsibility with the city and ordered Creon, his friend and brother-in-law, to go to the Oracle of Delphi and find out the source of such misfortune. Creon returns from the Oracle with the answers for such calamity.
I will reveal what I was told by Apollo. Through the glorious Oracle of Delphi, he expressly ordered that we must purify the land of the sacred city of Thebes, which is tarnished, thanks to a vile criminal.
The oracle revealed that the plague would persist until the one responsible for the death of Laius, the former king of Thebes, was expelled from the glorious city of Thebes, which he used as a haven. The only thing known was that King Laius had been murdered by a gang of thieves at a crossroads, but their identities remained unknown. Oedipus assumed the responsibility to uncover the identity of such vile element, who lurked within the walls of Thebes, and said, "Anyone who knows the real identity of the murderer is obliged to report what they know to me. Do not fear any kind of retaliation, regardless of who the perpetrator is, since you will be duly rewarded. I want the murderer to know that if he decides to willingly surrender himself, his physical integrity will be preserved, and he will not suffer any sentence, except the exile required by the oracle. And I want everyone to know that I will not rest until the man responsible for Laius's death is found and expelled from this city, even if he is part of my court or family. And I pray that the gods punish such an individual, inflicting him with full-fledged pain and suffering." Creon suggested the presence of Tiresias. The old blind man was a notorious clairvoyant, and, with the help of his powers, the criminal could be found. The old Tiresias appeared before Oedipus, who told him, "Wise elder, your reputation as a clairvoyant gives you enough credit to help us discover the identity of the actual murderer of my predecessor. Therefore, I command you to reveal everything you know."
Terrible is the knowledge that only brings misery to those who know it. Let me go, my king, and bear your own burden, and let me bear mine. It would be better for both of us.
It's getting deep. And just for the record, I haven't seen this before. I'll be waiting to watch it, you know what I'm saying, to be surprised.
If you have knowledge of the killer's identity, reveal it now. Do not allow the city of Thebes to continue to suffer due to your omission.
You don't know what you are asking for. Such knowledge.
Whoa. This whole getting deep. I'm telling you, man, this mythology is like, this shit deep. For something to be written so long ago, but it reflects nowadays. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. This shit is forever. It's set in stone. Something that you write, you can always reflect on. It's stories of shit that you gonna be dealing with, or you might be dealing with now.
Will only cast misery, and my mouth knows nothing.
How dare you betray the soil that welcomed you? This traitor can only be complicit in such a crime. Tiresias was deeply offended by this accusation and decided to reveal what he knew.
You insisted on going after your own demise. May you learn that the wicked who profanes our city is you, King of Thebes.
Take this man out of my sight. He is an old, demented man.
You wanted the truth and forced me to say it. Now force yourself to endure the punishments due and welcome the fruits of the curse that you have summoned. Because I know the powerful truth, and what is said is said.
Take this traitor away.
Mm.
He can only be in collusion with Prince Creon, who brought this man here to steal my crown. Oedipus accused Creon of treason and conspiracy alongside Tiresias in attempt to strip him of his power.
Why do you impose such burdensome accusations on me in such a careless way? I have always been your friend and made you king. I don't wish to have your crown, and why would I want to anyway? Standing by your side, I have all the benefits of royalty, without having to assume the heavy burdens of being a king. I never had the ambition to take your crown for myself. Queen Jocasta, who was watching everything, tried to calm the tempers of her husband and brother. However, Creon walked away, furious with Oedipus's accusations.
Husband of mine, don't mind what that old charlatan told you. Those soothsayers and oracles no longer have the power that they once did. It was prophesied that Laius would be killed by his own son, and he died when he was just a baby.
At that point, the arrival of a messenger from
Beautiful day in Baltimore, where most people probably know that Geico could save their money on car insurance, right? Well, could help them save on boat insurance too. Okay, request to come ashore. Geico.
from Corinth was announced, from the city where Oedipus's parents still reigned.
My lord, I bring sad news from Corinth. Your old father has died, and for this reason you should return to your beloved city and take your throne as the king's heir.
The news that you give me is sad indeed, but even so, it gives me great relief. The oracle predicted that I would kill my own father, and that I would marry my mother.
You see, Oedipus, the oracle's word is no longer valuable. The old king of Corinth died without your intervention.
But what if my old father died due to the sadness and despair he felt after I decided to abandon him? It's not prudent to return to Corinth and run the risk of ending up married to my mother.
Don't worry, my king. The queen is not your real mother. She simply adopted you.
How do you know such a secret?
Because I was the one who handed you to her when you were just a baby. You were handed to me when I was crossing these lands with my flock. You had your feet pierced.
After hearing what the messenger had said, Jocasta felt a deep tightness in her heart. Would you recognize the man who handed me, if you ever saw him again?
Forget that, Oedipus. Stirring such wounds would only cause more pain.
It's important to me to know the identity of my father and my mother, because I do not want to bring them the misfortune of my prophecy.
Do not insist on going down that path. I beg you.
Like I have to discover the identity of Laius's true murderer, it's my duty to discover the identity of my parents. This is my duty to Thebes and to myself.
Don't you dare, sorrowful one. If you insist, that will be the only title you will carry for the rest of your life.
Jocasta, desolated, crumbled into tears and ran to her room. Oedipus failed to understand the reason of such hysterical reaction from his wife, and believed that Jocasta probably feared the humble origin of his parents, something that could spoil the name of her family. While Oedipus was talking with the messenger, he is informed that the only witness of Laius's murder was brought to the court. The servant of the former king looked pale in front of Oedipus. The messenger told him,
Lord, I have no doubt this is the man who handed you to me when you were just a baby.
Servant,
This man says that you handed him a baby many years ago.
Lord, pay no attention to this man. He is just losing your time.
Do you remember that small boy with wounded feet? Now he is in front of you as a king.
Why don't you shut your mouth, you fool?
Who handed you the child? Was it your father?
I don't know what this man is talking about.
If I have to repeat the question, you will be a dead man.
Please, do not harm an old man. I curse that day when I spared your life. It would be better if you were dead.
Speak right away and end this story.
I beg you, my king, don't ask me anything else.
You will speak the truth, whether you want it or not. Tie him to that truck.
Considering that threat, I bow before your willingness. Saying this will be really cruel, but your pain as a listener will be even more excruciating. You have been delivered to me by Queen Jocasta, who put in my arms her son with King Laius, so that he could be delivered to the beasts of Mount Citharon to prevent the fulfillment of a terrible prophecy.
During that moment of revelation, light shed on the whole darkness that had blinded the poor Oedipus. His prophecy had been fulfilled. While trying to escape his fate from Corinth, Oedipus in fact crossed paths with it. But Oedipus's full misery had yet to be reached. Queen Jocasta had just committed a desperate act. Oedipus ran toward the royal rooms, but the door was locked. Jocasta, don't do anything that cannot be undone. We are not to blame for what happened. Everything was an inevitability of fate. After forcing the door, Oedipus found Jocasta hanging with a rope around her neck. Oedipus laid the body of the lifeless queen on the floor. He removed the golden brooches that tied her dress and, with their needles, pierced his own eyes. Cursed be my eyes, which have witnessed such a dreadful scene. I therefore mutilate them so that I no longer have to face my parents in the kingdom of Hades. Blind, Oedipus addressed the population of Thebes and said, I have plucked out my own eyes. What can I admire or love in this life now? Take me to exile, far from Thebes, because I'm damned, the most hated creature by the gods among mortals. Oedipus handed his crown to his brother-in-law Creon, who would take care of the kingdom until his children reached the age to reign. Oedipus was given to the king of the neglected, and the wretched king was taken by his own children to the city gates. His beloved daughter, Antigone, stretched out her arm and decided to accompany her poor father in exile. For Oedipus, the presence of his daughter at his side could only mean that the gods finally felt sorry for a man so cruelly persecuted since the beginning of his life.
Damn, that's kind of sad. I ain't gonna lie. Damn, that's kind of shit. That's kind of sad, man. Kind of touching. I ain't gonna lie. Dude had a rough life, man. That's cold. Let me get into the next one. This will be uh Let me see. We still going Greek mythology. Should we learn about Adonis? Yeah, let's go ahead and learn about Adonis. I don't know who that brother is. Let's see.
Adonis was a beautiful young hunter. While wandering the woods in search of his prey, the young man was worshipped by the flower nymphs. His beauty was so striking that he looked like a god. One day, Adonis's beauty even drew Aphrodite's attention. The goddess of beauty and love, who was playing in the forest with her son Eros, sharpening his arrows. The goddess was delighted with the young man and began to praise him to her son. Eros grew angry due to jealousy and turned his back on his mother while continuing to sharpen his golden arrows. Aphrodite said that Eros should not be jealous as to her. He would always be the most beautiful. She hugged him to comfort him, but accidentally ended up injuring herself on the arrow that Eros was holding. And so Aphrodite fell in love with Adonis.
Wow.
The goddess was spying the beautiful young man, and she could not resist his charms and succumbed to passion. Aphrodite asked the young man who he was, since his beauty was so wonderful that he resembled a god. Adonis knew that this lovely woman could only be Aphrodite, the goddess of love. He said that he was not a god.
Will he customize and save $652 with Liberty Mutual? He's got it! I object!
God, but a mere mortal. Aphrodite was intrigued because she didn't know that a man could be almost as perfect as a god. Aphrodite drew closer with such a seductive look that no god, much less a mortal, could resist. The couple kissed and began to see each other regularly. These were days of passionate love.
I was knocking boots.
Persephone, the queen of the underworld, was wandering through the woods and stumbled upon the loving couple. She was delighted with what she saw. But she did not know that Eros, the god of love, was ready to pull another one of his pranks. He shot her with one of his arrows. The queen was now also in love with the boy, and decided that Aphrodite should enjoy it while she could, because one day the beautiful boy would be hers. Aphrodite was overzealous of Adonis, fearing that the young and daring hunter would injure himself on his hunts. But he kept telling her not to worry, because he was very experienced and promised not to take any chances. However, apart from Aphrodite and Persephone, there was one more god who was keeping an eye on the boy. His name was Ares, the god of war, who was Aphrodite's lover and therefore bore a great hatred for his rival. Ares knew that the young man's love for hunting rivaled his love for Aphrodite, and so plotted his revenge. Adonis roamed the woods in search of yet another prey when he stumbled upon a mighty boar. Ares stirred up the young man's bloodlust. He ended up forgetting the promise he made to the goddess of not risking himself needlessly. Adonis chose to fight the beast and managed to wound it. But Ares inflated the beast's heart with unbridled fury. The boar decided not to flee to preserve its life, but to furiously charge Adonis. He drove its powerful tusks into his abdomen. Adonis was mortally wounded. Aphrodite came running to his aid, but there was nothing more she could do. He died in her arms. She buried him, and upon his tomb grew beautiful red flowers that were named Adonis. As one goddess wept, another in the underworld was beaming and waiting for the arrival of the most beautiful man who ever lived. The powerless goddess of love watched the arrival of Hermes, who was there to lead Adonis's soul to Hades' realm. In the netherworld, Queen Persephone eagerly awaited the arrival of the most beautiful man in the world, for whom she cherished a great passion sparked by Eros's arrow. Adonis was welcomed in the underworld by specters, who treated him with great honors. The boy was surprised at such a reception. He had no idea of the love that the queen of the underworld had for him. Persephone's loyal specters lodged the boy in a special room in the royal palace. While Hades, the underworld lord, was asleep, his queen broke into her guest's chamber. The beautiful goddess cornered the young boy, but he tried to dodge her. He dreaded Hades' revenge, but the goddess told him not to worry. If he didn't tell the god, she wouldn't tell him either. With no way out, he gave in to the goddess's lust. The sneaky encounters continued day after day. Aphrodite longed for her lover and promptly decided to go down to the Hades realm and rescue her sweetheart.
How you gonna do that?
She found Adonis there serving the underworld gods and said she was there to bring her beloved Adonis back to the surface. Hades, however, was aggrieved to see the goddess of love invading his kingdom and making demands. Hades told her that he did not care for Aphrodite's will. He appreciated the services rendered by Adonis, and he would remain in the underworld forever. But Aphrodite threatened to extinguish all love from the face of the earth. Only bitterness and grudge would remain between the couples. Hades ousted Aphrodite from his kingdom. She left in tears, but her threats were not empty. Throughout the world, love between couples began to dwindle. The relationship between Zeus and the goddess Hera, usually strained, was becoming unbearable. Zeus decided that something had to be done. He called for a meeting with Hades, Persephone, and Aphrodite, saying that the whole situation couldn't go on. He suggested Hades take possession of Adonis, just like the agreement he had made with the goddess Demeter. For a third of the year, he would stay in the underworld. The next third he would spend on the surface with Aphrodite, and the young man would have a third to enjoy in any way he wished. Hades took issue with Zeus's intrusion into matters of his kingdom, but knowing that Adonis was Persephone's favorite servant, he said he would not accept such an offer. To Hades' surprise, however, Persephone replied that, if it was for the good of all, she would allow Adonis to resurface and return to her husband's kingdom only when winter was approaching. Baffled, Hades did not understand why Persephone would release Adonis without putting up a fight. Spring arrived and Adonis departed to meet his lover Aphrodite. But summer meant that the goddess had to leave him. Hades had not anticipated summer is also the time that Persephone comes out of the underworld to find her mother, the goddess Demeter. And during the summer, Adonis and Persephone loved each other without bothering about being caught by the underworld king. But the quarrel between Persephone and Aphrodite remained. They always sought to maximize the length of their relationship with Adonis. This is why in some years the winter seems longer or the heat of summer persists.
Wow.
I'm here in New York City.
In one ancient Greek kingdom, at a time when the gods still roamed among mortals, 3 beautiful princesses dreamed what their future husbands would look like.
Mine will be very rich and will cover me with the finest silk and the most beautiful jewels. My husband will be a famous general, and he will show me as his most remarkable achievement. And you, Psyche, what will your husband look like?
All I want is a love that will lift my spirit. So cheesy.
The 2 sisters were beautiful, but Psyche was certainly the most beautiful. so beautiful that she attracted everyone's eyes, making her sisters jealous. People from faraway kingdoms traveled long distances just to gaze at the famous princess. "Behold, the most beautiful creature who ever set foot on earth!" Psyche was worshipped as a true deity, and the tributes previously paid to Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty, were now addressed to the young and beautiful princess. The offended goddess, caught in anger, watched the parade that followed the princess, while her temple was empty. Aphrodite gathered her son, Eros, the god of love and passion.
Dear son, this mortal who
Aphrodite
thinks she is
saying
on
some
the
shit.
same level as the gods must be punished. Through your arrows, make Psyche fall in love with the hideous creature.
As night fell, Eros went to the royal palace and stealthily entered Psyche's room. Psyche was sleeping in her bed. Curiously, Eros approached the princess to see if she was really that beautiful. The god was overwhelmed, as the beauty of Psyche was truly splendid.
The fact that my mother is jealous of this mortal being is no coincidence. Her beauty can eclipse the most beautiful among the nymphs and goddess.
In an unexpected turn of events, Psyche turned in her sleep, and this movement disoriented Eros, who accidentally wounded himself with his own weapon. The wounded god instantly fell in love with the young and beautiful mortal, and because of his love, Eros failed to accomplish the mission that would have caused harm to Psyche. Psyche carried on her life normally and did not even suspect what had happened. But there was something strange going on. Time passed, and although she was the most beautiful and most beloved, Psyche was still single, while her sisters had several suitors.
Psyche, you have always been adored by everyone, but you are still single. While our sister and I are already happily married to the noblest of men.
Don't worry, daughter of mine. Your beauty may be overwhelming to some men, but soon a suitor worthy of your heart will appear.
But the king was indeed very much worried about his daughter's situation. The king was unaware that the lack of suitors was because Eros refused to awaken the love for Psyche in any man, since he was in love with the girl. He went to the Oracle of Delphi in his quest for answers. Inside, through a pythoness, the god Apollo pronounced himself.
Your daughter will marry a perverse winged being who is delighted to wound mortals and gods. The princess shall be left on the edge of the abyss in matrimonial attire, where she shall be delivered to this terrible creature who will cause her death.
Apollo was referencing Eros, the god of love. The solar god harbored a great resentment for Eros, since he had made the god of music have non-requited loves. The king left the temple in tears, as he was resistant to the idea of losing his favorite daughter. But the envious sisters of Psyche insisted that he was to obey the orientations of the oracle.
You must sacrifice Psyche, or you will draw the ire of the gods and woe to our kingdom!
The king then revealed the sorrowful fate of his daughter.
My beloved daughter, by the will of the gods, we will deliver you to a terrible fate. Your beauty has become a curse.
The princess was led into the abyss by a bridal procession, which resembled a funeral procession. Psyche, hearing her parents' lamentation, did not hold back.
Why do they now bemoan my fate? A short while ago they rejoiced proudly to see me being adored like a goddess, while they knew the sacrilege that was being perpetuated. Now carry me up the cliff and let me meet my dismal fate.
Psyche was abandoned on the edge of the abyss, in expectation of her terrible husband. A breeze started to lift Psyche towards the sky. This wind was the god Zephyr, also known as the West Wind. The princess levitated in the sky towards her destiny. After being swept away by Zephyr, Psyche awoke in an idyllic place. Flowers spread everywhere, and a delicious scent perspired the air. A beautiful palace featuring the whitest marble stood out in the landscape. Psyche climbed the stairs that led to the entrance of the palace, bewildered by all the wealth that surrounded her. The place was made of striking luxury, where there was no shortage of adornments covered in gold and silver. As she entered the palace, she heard a soft voice, but could not tell where it came from. "My lady, everything you see now belongs to you, and we are at your disposal to assist you in anything you wish." There was no one around her, but the young woman understood that these were invisible servants. They helped her in the bath, at meals, and sang and played beautiful songs. "Now you shall go to your room and wait for the arrival of our master."
And what is your master like? They say he's a monster.
Some have mentioned him that way, but in fact he's not evil, just volatile. Already in her room, Psyche, distressed, was waiting for her fate. The cloak of Nyx, the goddess of the night, had already fully clothed the skies. The room was in utter darkness, and it was impossible to see any shape, when Psyche felt that something had crept in through the window. The lady felt the presence of her new husband, and could feel his breath on her neck. The young woman was tense and had no idea what would happen. Against her expectations, she had a night of sublime pleasure, and her new husband treated her with much love and affection. When she awakened in the morning, her husband had already left, and due to the darkness of the previous night, she could not have any glimpse of her companion. Psyche spent the day getting to know the facilities of her new residence, but she kept thinking about when she would find that mysterious creature again. The night arrived, and Psyche was already waiting for her husband. The couple met and loved each other on countless nights. On one of those, Psyche couldn't resist and asked,
My love, why do you always hide in the shadows? I would so much like to know how you really are.
Isn't the love we share enough? All I'm asking is that you don't try to see me. In the darkness, we are equals.
I'm sorry if I annoyed you. That wasn't my intention.
Psyche decided to respect her husband's request and stopped touching the subject. Time passed, and despite being very happy, Psyche missed her family.
Husband of mine, I miss my family so much, and it hurts my heart to know that they think I am dead. I beg you to let me visit her.
Eros accepted Psyche's request because, according to his thoughts, if she decided to return after having been released, that would be the ultimate proof of her genuine love.
My beloved daughter, I thought I would never see you again.
Psyche's relatives were surprised with the girl's return, whom they thought they would never see again. And the return was triumphant. Psyche was adorned with the most beautiful jewels. She looked like the richest of queens.
How is your life with your mysterious husband?
It couldn't be more wonderful. He is sweet and does everything to please me.
Her jealous sisters did not believe the stories Psyche told while she distributed beautiful gifts to her relatives.
Everything about our sister tends to be too much. I don't think everything she says is really that gorgeous.
You don't have to believe me. Come with me, and you can see for yourself.
Zephyr, the wind from the west, led Psyche and her sisters to the heavenly palace. When they got there, they realized that everything their sister had said was true. But this only made her sisters more jealous. The envious sisters decided to poison Psyche's relationship.
I know that everything seems wonderful, but don't you remember what the oracle said? You married a monster, and he will be responsible for your death. Do this. When you sense that he is sleeping, take a knife, turn on a light, and after seeing the monster, cut his throat.
Her sisters departed, but seeds of distrust had been planted in Psyche's heart. The night came, and her husband was already asleep beside her. The young woman took a knife and lit a lamp. As she approached her bed, Psyche realized that this was not a monster, but a young man with divine beauty. The young woman moved closer to contemplate her husband's breathtaking beauty and concluded that he could only be a god. But a drop of hot oil accidentally fell from the lamp, and it hit Eros' chest, who awoke, frightened by the burn. And he faced Psyche, wielding the knife.
How can you be such a fool? Is this how you repay my love? Thinking that I'm a monster and wanting to slash my throat?
Forgive me, my love. I know I made a mistake, but we can make this right.
I only asked you one thing, and you couldn't do it. And so you'll never see me again.
Eros flew out the window. Psyche jumped after him but couldn't reach him and hit the ground. The fall injuries were light, but her heart was utterly broken. When they heard that Psyche had returned, her sisters ran to the cliff, hoping that they would be blown away by the west wind. Zephyr began to blow, and the sisters threw themselves into his arms. But he did not seize them, letting them fall from the cliff. The poor Psyche began to help with the tasks of the goddess Demeter's temple, but she never stopped thinking about her lost love.
Meet the Croc's so nice, they named him twice.
Crocodile!
On October 7th,
He's a good crocodile.
comes a comedy event that will have you screaming for more.
Wild Crocodile, something good for the kids.
Wild Crocodile, rated PG.
Part 2.
In Demeter's temple, Psyche accomplished all of her tasks with utmost dedication. But all this work was not enough to make the young woman stop thinking about her lost love. The goddess Demeter showed her pity for the poor girl and decided to help her.
Poor Psyche. I feel sorry for your pain, so I give her the following advice. Go to Aphrodite's temple and offer yourself to the goddess with humility and submission. Then you will soften the goddess's wrath, and perhaps you will be able to win back her love.
Who am I not to follow the advice of such a wise and benevolent goddess?
Psyche went to the goddess of love's temple, and she had no idea how she would be welcomed by the former mother-in-law. The young woman was met with great distrust by Aphrodite.
What is the most obnoxious and disloyal of creatures who have walked on this earth doing in my temple?
I humbly throw myself down before the goddess of love and put myself at her service in search of forgiveness.
Do you believe that you will be forgiven easily by me after robbing my honors and hurting my son? To purge your sins will be very painful, and you will have to do the most difficult jobs, which may cost you your own life.
I will do anything to at least have a small chance to get your forgiveness and win back my love.
Aphrodite chose to burden Psyche with painful tasks. As a first assignment, Psyche would then have to go to the grain barn and separate the different varieties, which were thoroughly mixed. The difficulty of such a task would have overwhelmed even Hercules. The god Eros, who secretly observed everything, made ants help Psyche in her task. This way, the young woman accomplished her work in record time. Aphrodite was angered to see the work accomplished so quickly.
I don't know how you managed to accomplish this task so easily, but the next one won't be so straightforward.
Psyche was supposed to bring Aphrodite a good handful of golden wool from dangerous sheep. These were no ordinary animals, since, besides having the golden wool, they were also enthusiasts of human flesh. The sheep passed through a narrow trail between thorny plants, and part of their wool ended up sticking to the thorns. Psyche collected the wool that was left between the thorns and presented the golden threads to the goddess.
Well done, but do not think it's over.
The goddess of beauty then demanded that the young woman bring her a jug of water from the source of the Styx River, which is located on top of a mountain. The task was seemingly impossible to achieve, But Zeus ordered his eagle to collect the water from the source and deliver it to Psyche. And so one more job was accomplished.
I admit that you have been able to accomplish these tasks by conquering the mercy of the gods, but your next job will have a price that only you can pay. The hassle you've caused me has exhausted my beauty, so I demand you go to the kingdom of Hades and ask Queen Persephone to fill this box with beauty, so I can restore my splendor. And then you shall have my forgiveness and blessing to reunite with my son again.
Psyche knew now that her end was near, and she knew of no other way to enter the underworld than to take her own life. The young woman was ready to jump from the top of a tower when she heard a voice like a ghost.
There's another way. I'll tell you the route, and how you can overcome the obstacles known as Charon the ferryman and Cerberus the three-headed dog. But when you come back, don't ever open the box in any situation.
Following the guidance of the mysterious voice, she found a cave that would take her to the underworld. After a lengthy descent, she reached the banks of the Acheron River, and there she met Charon.
I serve the goddess Aphrodite and have an audience with Queen Persephone, who awaits me.
She gave 2 coins to the boatman Charon as payment. So she crossed the River of Souls toward the domains of Hades. Psyche introduced herself to the king and queen of the underworld, Hades and Persephone.
What does a mortal do in our domains?
I'm here at the service of Aphrodite, who asks you to fill this box with some of your beauty, so that she can restore hers.
Persephone gave the box back to her, which was now much heavier, and Psyche set out on her way out of the underworld. Psyche came across Cerberus, preventing her passage. However, she had taken with her, guided by the mysterious voice, barley and honey bread, soaked with a sleeping pill. She offered it to the dog, who fell asleep, and so Psyche proceeded to the surface. As the boatman made his return trip, the young woman saw her own reflection in the waters, and she noticed how all this work had made her look tired. Psyche started the ascent to the surface, and she would soon finish her last mission.
This box is nearly overflowing with beauty. It won't hurt me to take just a little bit for myself. And like this, when I find my love again, I will be beautiful and glowing for him.
Psyche opened the box, and out of it came a black mist. As she absorbed the mist, Psyche started to faint, and life began to leave her body. Eros felt that something had happened to his love and went to rescue her. When he found Psyche, she was cold as a cadaver. Thanatos, the embodiment of death, was already beside the girl's body. Using his powers, Eros lifted the mortal mist from her beloved's body and put it back in the box. Psyche awoke in Eros's arms and said,
My love, I feel now that I can finally look you in the eyes without risking losing you.
Then the couple kissed passionately. Eros instructed Psyche to finish her work, handing the box to Aphrodite. In the meantime, the god of love flew to Mount Olympus, where he begged Zeus to convince Aphrodite to allow the couple to bond. Eros led Psyche to Mount Olympus. All the gods were waiting for her there. And from the hands of Zeus himself, and with Aphrodite's blessing, she received the nectar and ambrosia, divine foods that bestowed immortality.
Psyche, her path was thorny, but ultimately you managed to complete your quest. Now you are immortal and free from the obstacles created by men's ignorance. And the bond that binds you and your husband will never be breached, and this love will persist for all eternity.
From the union of Eros and Psyche was born Hedon, the deity of pleasure, and the love of the couple lasted forever.
And that is this episode of Mythology Talk. What did you think about it? What do you think it meant?
If you shop at Walmart.
I know this last one, she had to go through some obstacles. And in the end, she got the ultimate reward of being immortal, to be with her husband. No hate. Her haters are gone. Her two sisters, they gone. You know what I'm saying? They hated on her and then tried to do the same thing as her. All this shit got meaning though. Real quick though, put in your comments what you think. I could talk about this for a while, but I gotta go take care of some business, pay some bills. This is this episode 2. I'll be back with episode 3. It'll come back to you today, so stick around. This is my Southern opinion. I'll be back at y'all later. All right.